All right, Ariel Helwani's here. Busy day for him. He's doing a million different things. He's flying around. Still made time for the boy. Still made time for the kid. This is gonna be the best one, right?
Oh,
This is
100%.
yeah,
The Bill Simmons one I just did, nothing compared to this.
garbage. What has he ever done? How many
Nothing.
downloads does he even do? A couple thousand?
No one listens.
Yeah, no
No one
one even
cares.
knows. I actually wondered if that was the one that you were doing when you
It
texted me.
was.
Like, yeah, I was gonna ask you. I thought, yeah, it's a big enough time, Simmons time. You know,
Oh, he loves this.
yeah,
There's a
of
little
course.
bit of crazy MMA stuff going on, crazy boxing,
Yes.
Bills, Knicks. We touch it all. But
Okay. Well,
you were worried that I was gonna, empty the tank. I never empty the tank.
all right,
I
good.
got I got I got a gas tank for days.
I was gonna say it sucks to be the third one though. Simmons, Bunkis, and then leftovers. That's just scraps. You're getting
Yeah,
scraps. Third one
I'm not
next.
gonna tell them. I'm not
Oh
gonna
yeah,
tell them.
that's a scrappy interview. People look up for all of Ariel's work again. You know, an MMA hour, Ringer MMA show, all of those things. I think I tried to actually come up with a moniker for you. Actually, where'd I put it? Let's do this.
Jack of all trades.
The Foam,
The foam. What does that mean?
face of MMA media.
Oh wow.
What do you think of that?
I don't hate it, but
The
you
Foam.
know, we're trying to become the face of combat media. Why not?
Okay.
Why can't I
Yeah,
touch them all, Joe?
yeah, I guess that is touch them all. Well, you know what? I am starting with kind of boxing. Okay,
Yeah.
I that was so bad.
Did you watch? Did you
Oh
watch?
my, yeah, I watched.
You loved it.
I watched you also. I know that. Listen, I know you. You're my friend. I knew you, Dillon Danis, for the effect before the fight, doing the whole like those three guys took Logan, you took Dillon. I knew deep down in your heart, you knew what was going to happen. You're a journalist. You know that. Like I know you on your show. You went, "Hey, Dillon Danis didn't have a boxing coach." Imagine being any person on earth that went, "What? He didn't prepare properly for this fight." What an astonishing fact that has been revealed to us. My question isn't so much about Dillon, because I think it's pretty clear what he was accomplishing or what he was trying to accomplish. I thought you nailed it during the broadcast, exactly what he was going for, putting up the shell and not trying to get knocked out. Didn't want to become Nate Robinson 2.0. But my question for you is a bigger one is, I know that this is extenuating circumstances. I know you talked about it with Logan Paul on your show about how he plays in the mud and that this is a little closer to the way that these kind of fights would be promoted. But after Conor McGregor, we saw Conor McGregor clones start to pop up in the promotion game, right? Things started to change a little bit. And it felt phony. It felt a little, yeah, forced at times, especially with the likes of like the Colby Covingtons of the world. But I'm curious if you think that Dillon Danis' success with the promotion of this fight is going to have any kind of ripple effect into the, let's say, the world.
Mm, I mean, look, I know Connor was just a megastar, but I do believe that there are other people before him who did a great job of selling fights. Connor was special because he had the personality, he had it all. He had the lines, he backed it up, he had the results, and that's the problem. Dillon didn't have the results. So, he was very good at crap talking. He got under Logan's skin. He made it very personal. But ultimately now he's got some work to do in terms of building himself back up, right?
Mm.
So it can't just be about the build up. Ultimately, people are going to figure out that you're not coming to fight. And I actually didn't have a problem with what Dillon did in the first two rounds. I thought it was, a pretty good game plan for a guy who hasn't fought in 4 years, who's never fought on a stage like that before, who's never had that kind of pressure on his shoulders before. Like when he fought in Bellator twice, like those were like lower level fights, not in full arenas. There was no attention on those fights. He was fighting against nobodies. And so there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And then I thought, all right, he's going to tire out Logan Paul and then he's going to, he's going to fight back. The problem is I think he got rocked in the latter portion of the second round and he's like, screw this. I just don't want to be made fun of, because this is a guy who lives on the internet, who has been using, internet material to get under his opponent's skin. And he realized, if I get knocked down, if I get knocked out, I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. And so I
100%.
think then his approach was, don't get embarrassed, don't get knocked down, don't get knocked out. And now let me create my own meme. Let me create my own moment. And that's why he went for the takedown, the guillotine,
Yeah.
went on his back. And it just became silly at that point. Like that's not fighting. Fighting is a very courageous thing, and you go out there, you put it on the line. It's kill or be killed, and you live to fight another day. And I've never understood people that make fun of fighters when they get knocked out because you and I don't possess that DNA, that courage to go into the cage. You
Not even
can't go in
close.
there scared. You can't go in there trying to avoid, a highlight reel knockout. It just, it turns into that. So he's got some work to do to convince people that he's not going to do this again and that he's not just some internet troll.
I think he is just an internet troll, and I think the greater point of curiosity is like you saw when he came out. I thought the moment for him was the crowd was behind him, and he was, let's just be honest, like he was vile in the promotion.
Yep.
So Dillon Danis is a funny guy. Like there was the moment before the fight where Logan Paul brought out the To Catch a Predator guy, and he just had a
Chris
line
Hansen.
for it. He just had a line for it right away. Go pay your taxes. And there's just some guys that are like that. Simple chirp really works for them. And Dillon Danis is one of those dudes who he can just kind of repeat the same thing over and over and over again, and it still has a feeling of it being fresh. He can be humorous. Again, I don't think that he's someone that everyone can replicate, but the idea that he was that awful before the fight, that it's like borderline criminal activity. I don't even know if it is criminal activity, right? There's going to be some kind of a lawsuit. I don't know how this is going to end up playing out, but I just wondered if maybe the line has moved now, right? Like with Conor McGregor and the Khabib fight, it felt like it got, and people said Conor crossed the line, right? And then it felt like there was a little bit of a pullback. And I just wonder if some of these guys that are going to be looking to promote fights are going to look at what Dillon Danis did and say, this is actually the path for me. And if you're an MMA fighter and you can just halfway fight, you can be half decent. I wonder if like being indecent is going to be your path to unlocking like a different level of stardom.
It's 100% possible. I mean, we've definitely seen the internet, social media used as a tool to build fights, the trash talk, the back and forth. I mean, Tyson Fury and Usyk have been going back and forth for ages now. It seems like they're going to fight. And I hate to use this word because it's a very, it's a very internet word, but it's at times very cringy, right? Like you see this stuff and it's like, this, we're a long ways away from some of the great trash talk of yesteryear. Look, I asked Logan this question, and I thought it was really interesting so before the fight, I asked him, does he regret picking Dillon? Because Dillon's Q rating before he picked him as his return fight was nothing. He pulled out of the KSI fight in January, and everyone said you can never show your face in the combat sports world again. And he was like no one was talking about him. And Logan picks him, and he said this story in the interview. When I found out about it, I said, why? Why would you resurrect him? And the issue is Logan is polarizing. There's a lot of people that don't like him. They think he's a scam artist, this and that. And because of their dislike for him, they back Dillon. Because there are some people out there who are maybe lonely, who maybe, are mad at women, things like that. They're like, look at Dillon. Look at him shaming this woman. Yeah, you go out there and you fight for us. And so by the end, Dillon became the babyface and Logan became the bad guy. And it was shocking to see. And after the fight, Logan did admit on his podcast that he regretted it, that he wished he didn't pick him, that this resulted in his, fiance going through hell and all that stuff. And he should regret it because this wasn't a money fight. This wasn't a mega fight that everyone was clamoring for. It ended up being one because of Dillon, but it wasn't one when he chose him back in August or so. So, I hope we don't go down this path. Unfortunately, I think we will continue to see things like this pop up. But I don't think it's going to be the norm. I mean, look at Volkanovski and Makhachev this weekend. Like, they're not making it personal. They're not going
great.
there.
Like that, yeah. They're great. They don't need anything to sell this fight. Like,
sure,
this is one where a guy like you or a guy is just going to reach out to a friend and say, "Hey, you should watch this." Like, I don't really care. This is a fight that you should see, right? I just feel like the promotion for it is very different. I'm thinking more about the guys that are like, I know it's different talking to you because I can just say names and it carries no resonance, but I'm like, yeah, like the Paddy Pimblett thing is fun, right? And he's a fighter, but I wonder if guys that are kind of in that level of skill that aren't going to be the great ones in the sport, if they can catapult themselves with more than the personality, but by following the troll thing that Dillon Danis did, taking that to another level. Because I don't think we haven't seen that level of trolling in the UFC, but I don't think that we've seen that kind of consistent level of line crossing either to promote a fight. Or if it's like, he's the test balloon, you put him out there. Dillon Danis did all these things. And I know it's a Paul brother, right? So it's going to be riskier doing it to like another non-internet person. who feels like, because the Paul brothers are basically, you can say whatever you want about them and the internet's going to just, lap it up and say this is the reality they live in. But I am going to be curious to see if some people try to emulate this and they go, you know what, I'm fine being the troll. I'm fine being the Colby Covington plus. You know what I mean? Like taking it into this new echelon. And the other part about Paul, and this is the last part of this fight that I want to talk to you about. I wonder if they also regret it now, because to me, and this is just how I feel about it. To me, this stuff's done now. Like, I don't care about the Paul brothers anymore. Like, Logan can't box, and he fought a troll, and that's the most that's the most stakes that he's ever going to have in a fight, because it was for the defense of his fiance. Like, the story makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, done. He's fought Floyd Mayweather, and he's fought the biggest troll on the internet. Logan's done. He can't box. Jake can't box either. He boxes better, but he's not a boxer. He lost to Tommy Fury, and Tommy Fury just beat KSI. Like, I don't know where the rest of this stuff goes. I don't see a path forward outside of McGregor or Diaz, something like that. But even then, it's kind of like, I get it. I'm over this now. It's had its time. It's done.
So that's like the top 1%. But here's the thing. I was at that fight, obviously.
Yeah.
And man, I was blown away by the fans. Blown away. I've been to Tank Garcia this year. I've been to Spence Crawford this year. Like, those are probably the two biggest fights of the year as far as boxing is concerned. Mm-hmm. And there was no one in the arena by the time the co-main started. Like, everyone just rushes in by the time the main event started. Here in Manchester this past weekend, I'd say that arena, the AO arena, I'd say it was like 60 to 70% full before the first fight. The first fight, not the first fight of the main card, like the first fight of the night. They knew everyone. In that way, it was very much like a UFC crowd. But it actually was more like a WWE crowd, because I couldn't believe, I've never been to a combat sports event of any kind where there were so many 10 to 12-year-old kids. Like, that's what it was. It was kids with their dad, young kids, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds. You don't see that at typical fights. So there's a whole world of fans who love these characters, not just Logan and KSI, but they love like the lower level guys who, I'll be honest, like, I didn't know about when I took this assignment, but guys like Waleed Sharks and Dean the Great, Salt Poppy and Pineda and B Dave, like, this is a whole other legion of fans that reside in this world, and they can't get enough of it. The reports are 1.3 million buys. They're not thinking this is done. They're not thinking this is dead. They're thinking like, I can't wait for the next one. And so this isn't necessarily for you or I. That's why every time I talk about this, I don't just call it boxing. It's crossover boxing or influencer boxing. The same way I would never compare pro wrestling, WWE wrestling, to collegiate or Olympic wrestling. They share one word in there, but ultimately it's two completely different things. So this is more like pro wrestling than it is collegiate wrestling, if you get, the analogy.
No, I totally get it. I
These
just think
fans
for
don't
me,
care about
done.
MMA. They don't care about boxing. They care about this world, these characters. They love them. And so you and I jump in when there's like a connection to the real combat sports world, Danis or Nate Diaz or Anderson Silva, etc. But they're going to have a show next month with a main event. There was a moment, JD, in that fight on that broadcast where I was talking to a guy named Slim who just beat Salt Poppy.
Yeah.
And a dude walked in when I was doing the post-fight interview.
Yeah.
And I had no idea who he was. Like, he came and crashed the interview. Now, if I was working like a traditional boxing event or an MMA event, I'd be like, oh my God, so-and-so is here. I'm like, bro, I don't know who you are. But I looked online when people told me and could tell that I didn't know. He had 2.1 million followers on Instagram. He's a big deal. I just don't know. So it's not necessarily for you or an I, if you get what I'm saying.
No,
you know
I do.
What I mean?
I guess I feel in this product then, because I just know for me it's done. Like, I will not be bothered again. I will not be bothered again with this whole.
Such
and again,
a liar.
No, dude, I'm not. I've done it. I've watched it, and I keep seeing the reaction, and I can't remember who. Like, MMA fighters start to populate the Twitter feed with y'all paid for this tweet. Like,
don't get me started. Don't get me started on those sanctimonious tweets.
Yeah,
I mean, like, it drives me nuts. These are the same people that are supporting slap fighting. All right, get the F out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Although I can't imagine that any of those guys really watch slap fighting.
Bro, they're promoting it all day long on their channels and on their social media. Come on, like, you're no better than any of this. All right.
Yeah.
Slap fighting is not a sport. This is more sport than that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. UFC, combat sports time, the stuff I actually care about.
Okay.
I'm the Pauls. I'm sorry. Honestly, you know what I'm most invested in with the Pauls now is I wanted to keep going just so my friend Ariel can get like what I assume are very fat paychecks to work these events. Go or do the celebrity
I don't want
tour.
to be just the crossover boxing guy. Like, I don't want to be branded
I,
as just that dude.
You're not just that dude. All I'm saying is that that's my number one emotional
I appreciate
investment
that.
now moving forward with these is, hey, look, there's my friend on TV in a big event. Oh, there's my friend almost getting killed by a
Oh
microphone
yeah,
at Dillon
that was
Danis.
crazy. But please, like people are like, oh, you're in their pocket, you're in the like. I was on the broadcast and I said this was unwatchable. The main event was
No,
unwatchable.
but
So
buddy, I don't care. Like again, the people who you're not the FOMAM without him. You know what I mean? Yeah, don't worry, you don't have to defend your credentials.
all right.
Okay, so I want to talk about Khamzat first
Oh yeah.
because this is a guy who fought 3 times in 3 months and looked like he was going to be the guy for the
Hmm.
UFC, and he's fought 3 times since 2020. And I wonder what the UFC feels like is the stake for him in this fight. Actually, I guess I should ask you first, like the journalist question, which is, do you think Usman's knee is fully right?
Hmm.
Because there was that pop that he said that he
Yeah.
heard, and he said it's fine, but you've got your own sources. I want to go with this betting wise, like I did with
TJ Dillashaw.
yes, with Dillashaw, where I bet Dillashaw, and then he's like, oh, I had one arm, and I was like, oh, thanks for this. So tell people if they should bet on Usman from an injury standpoint, and then two is the question about what does Khamzat mean to the UFC now?
Well, first of all, if you were betting on Usman before all this, I would have said that you're a dummy. So
Okay,
I
fair.
definitely is this true or not? Who knows? The video, in my opinion, wasn't very convincing. It almost felt like damage control. We'll find out afterwards. I'm sure he'll tell us afterwards. But I think he has no chance against Khamzat. I give him a ton of credit for taking this fight. 11 days notice against someone like Khamzat, but going up from 185 from 170 to 185 to fight a guy like Khamzat who's had a full training camp, who hasn't fought since last September, no serious injuries. Like I really think Khamzat might win this fight in the first round, believe it or not. Wasn't too impressed with Usman in the third fight against Leon back in March. He's getting up there in age. His body has obviously, taken a lot of damage.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think that video, real or not, that exchange, real or not, should deter you from betting on him, because I don't think you should have bet on him to begin with. Khamzat to me is is a champion waiting to happen. And to your point, I remember saying when I was doing the show with DC that if he's not the champion, I said by the end of 2021 something catastrophic happened. Well, what ended up happening was he got bad COVID and he
Oh, I
retired for a
forgot about that.
second. What's that?
I forgot about that. Honestly, I did.
Yeah,
I
he
forgot about
was
the
he
bad
was
COVID.
coughing up blood and all
Yeah.
this stuff, and he actually retired. And then he came back, and now there's all kinds of rumors about, like, can he travel to the States? Can he not? I don't know the answer to that. They're all very secretive about all of that. But it is weird to me that he hasn't fought since September of last year. Now, I will say this: the United Arab Emirates pays the UFC a lot of money to put on these events. In fact, they just announced a new 5-year deal with them, and they have a say to a degree as to who fights on these cards. Initially, it
Mhm.
was Khabib. They always wanted him to fight on these cards. Now it's Islam. Khamzat is a very big star over there. He actually now lives there, and so they may have just been waiting for him to, like for this event to come so that they can have him on the card. But he like if he wins this fight, he should fight for the belt next. It's like we're delaying the inevitable at this point. He is that darn good. But we've lost some time with him, and it would be nice to see him finally, get a chance to realize that potential.
You know what though? I forgot about the long COVID thing, but I wonder if that has anything to do with the way that he's performed since too, because there's been real questions about whether the gas tank is legit.
Nah, I don't
You
agree
over
with
it?
that. He fought Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns a really tough guy. He won that fight fair and square. And then he fought Kevin Holland on a day's notice. He was supposed to fight Nate Diaz, and he smoked him. So I don't have any concerns about that. And maybe I'm going to be proven wrong here, and maybe this is a big mistake to dismiss a guy like Kamaru Usman with his credentials. But I don't think this is the fight that's going to test him. Costa was interesting. Like I was infinitely more interested in the original co-main, which was Paulo Costa against Khamzat Chimaev, because Costa's a big, strong guy. He's durable, and maybe he would be able to, to hang in there with Khamzat. But the thing about Khamzat is he is so strong. His wrestling is so good. He hits really hard. I saw a video yesterday of him picking up Daniel Cormier. I don't know how big DC is these days, but he did it with relative ease, and he's definitely not the 205 version of DC.
Mhm.
So, like, the guy is just next level strong, and I don't think Costa ultimately would have given him a tough fight, but I do think that it would have been a tougher fight than this Usman fight. And the build-up for that fight was just so fun. Like, that to me was just such a fun feud, and so it's a bummer that it hasn't come to fruition. On the flip side, though, not to move along too fast, I'm infinitely more interested in this new main event as opposed to the original main event.
Yeah, of course, everyone is. And like, I hate saying this, but it was one of those, oh, I'm so sorry that they had to change this fight because this is the fight the entire MMA world wants, right? And I think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Do you think if this didn't happen, we were gonna get this fight again? Like, and I mean Volk, and I mean Makhachev.
It might have been a while because Volk was supposed to fight actually in Toronto, Ilia Topuria. And what a gangster Alex Volkanovski is. He says that he is still planning on fighting in Toronto in January against Topuria, who's
I
no
hope
walk
so.
in the park. He's not an easy fight at all. He's very good. And then Islam, if he would have beaten Charles, they probably would have done Justin Gaethje. And so, like, who knows what happens down the line. I love that first fight back in February. I love the story surrounding it. I love how it ended. I love how close it was. I love their dynamic. And now the story of Volk taking this fight on 11 days notice, coming off a fight in July, coming off elbow surgery, and he was only medically cleared a month ago, flying into enemy territory where he's not the fan favorite in the UAE where Islam is, and trying to dethrone him to become double champ. I mean, this is all-time stuff right here. Like, you do not see this often. We see people take fights on short notice, Usman, Chimaev, etc., but not a champ. The last time we saw something like this happen was Max Holloway taking a fight at UFC 223 against Khabib Nurmagomedov when Tony Ferguson pulled out. The problem was Holloway didn't end up making weight. He was too big. So the fight never actually happened. This is extremely rare that a champion goes in there. Now, I know what the flip side is. The flip side is, oh, he has nothing to lose. He's still going to be the champion if he loses. Fair, but no one wants to get embarrassed. No one wants to get beat up. And oh, by the way, if he loses this fight, he's never getting another crack at Islam or the 55 belt, at least not while Islam is the champion. So there's a lot to lose for Volk as well. And he's a proud. He's one of my favorite athletes right now. Just like the way he conducts himself and the way he speaks and what he represents.
Dude, he's like the
never
new
controversial.
GSP. That's why you like him. He's very GSP in terms of the way
It's
he
true.
carries the mantle for the sport. And I say this especially because my favorite fighter after GSP was Max Holloway. And after their first fight, I hated Volk. Like, deeply hated Volk,
Yeah,
right?
a lot of
Like,
people did.
and then the second fight, I thought Max won.
Yeah.
And I felt sick for Max. I remember watching with my brother and I thought Max was going to have his validation, the Fight Island thing. And I remember them announcing it and just feeling down in the dumps. And ever since then, like the third fight that they have, I just completely pivoted. This guy's just great. This guy's just undeniably great. And then the way he carried himself after the fight, the way he's carried himself ever since, he's my favorite fighter in the UFC right now. Unquote. He's probably already on my Mount Rushmore of just all-time favorite fighters. Maybe that's a bit extreme. Maybe I'm being a bit of a prisoner of the moment there, but he's at least close. And the cool thing for me about this fight that I'm just so excited for is, man, if he pulls this off, short notice, and he goes up and he beats Makhachev there, I really do wonder where it is going to put him in the all-time great conversation, because I know that's like an easy one and one that you're probably pretty tired of, given, the amount of time that you put into this business. But for me, it's like, I love it when the stake is you can have an actual case to be the greatest. You can have a case to be one of the three greatest. Like that, I feel like that's there for me in this fight with Volkanovski.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just doing this on short notice is tremendous, but and being double champion is tremendous as well. Like, that hasn't happened that often too. Against Islam, like,
That's what I'm
Islam
saying.
isn't like one of those weak champions that, is ripe for the taking, who's beat up, who's, on the back end of their career. Like,
No comment on GSP.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of people said that he saw, good on him.
Yeah,
He saw
he did.
Bisping, he was beat up, he had one eye.
Yeah.
Let's go out there and make some history. It's
He
it's
took the
it's definitely
one-eyed
possible.
champ.
Islam ain't that guy, right?
Yeah, he's
Islam
not.
is tough as hell. And I just love the way he says, like, yeah, I'm gonna turn up, and I'm ready to go, and I'm mentally ready, and I'm not beat up. And he just walks the walk, man. Like, he's everything that Dillon Danis Logan Paul fight wasn't.
It's
You know
the
what I
opposite.
mean? He's the complete opposite. He's
Dude,
the complete
when they
opposite.
do, like, they say, you need to cleanse the palate. I just found out recently that when you go eat sushi, that's what the ginger's for.
Yeah.
I didn't know that
Where have you
until
been?
I I was
You need to get out there.
I think I probably found this out maybe 6 or 7 months ago, but even still, I was like, pardon me, I've had it my entire life and I had no idea. But I feel like these guys are the ginger that of that horrible fight that you're responsible in promoting. But it's all right.
I wasn't promoting. People are accusing me of
Yeah,
promoting. Yo, man, I'm just out there
yeah,
covering an event. All
yeah,
right, don't blame
yeah.
me. I didn't book the card. I didn't
No,
pick
you
Dillon.
don't.
I wanted to pick Dillon. I said it myself. Why are you picking Dillon?
Yeah,
So and now he's
yeah,
on Piers Morgan. What a world.
yeah. I saw whatever. I went. The
Keep going
reason
back.
that I know that is because I went to Dillon Danis's Twitter feed just because I needed to see how he was going to spin it. And of course, it was screenshots of the one punch that he landed in the entire fight and a bunch of lying. Don't worry, I'm just going to lie. I'm going to lie about this entire thing. I'm going to power through all the hate towards me and just lie, 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 lie. And then he's on Piers Morgan. And I went, there was almost a morbid curiosity where I listened to it just to see what those two guys were going to do on a show together. Cause I was like, if you told me like an ad libs game of two people that you would never want to see in an interview together in terms of like your nightmare, it would be Dennis and Piers Morgan. Of just
I
hated
can't even believe that
interviews.
he cared enough to have him on, but it just speaks to
How?
how big the fight
Yeah, it's true.
became, especially in the UK. Yo, it was
Right.
gigantic. Like taxi drivers are coming up, people on the
Yes.
street. Everyone was talking about it in a big sports town. Manchester, I know United and City weren't playing that weekend, but like everyone was talking about this. The
Mhm.
weigh-ins were packed. Like I said, the event was packed. So, they definitely
No.
captured the imagination, but you got to back it up, and he
Yeah,
did.
none of that happened. That's why
Mm.
I'm surprised to hear you talk about the whatever the undercard guys and the rest of this promotion, the way that it's going to work out, because I had no idea. I honestly assumed that this was just a Manchester thing. Like when Tyson Fury
No.
goes up there and he's like, "Hey, Manchester, best fight town on planet Earth." I'm like, maybe there's a case for this. They're selling out this arena, and
Nah, they would have sold out London. They would have sold out
yeah,
like the whole country.
because they're
These guys are
smart.
huge characters.
I know, but they're smart fan base too in terms of the fight game. Like when Michael Buffer gets ready to like going on, right? And everyone in the arena was singing the song. I can't remember what it was. I think it was "Living on a Prayer," and everyone singing the song. And then
I think it was Oasis.
maybe it was that. Yeah, maybe it was Wonderwall. It's one of those
Yeah,
songs that an entire stadium can sing.
yeah.
And Michael Buffer is starting to do his announcements, and I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna sing over the man who gets $1 million to say a couple of words. And then right before he's about to say it, immortalized words, the entire crowd just shuts up and stops singing mid-song. And I went, that's a crowd. That's a smart ass crowd. I don't think that happens maybe anywhere else, right? Like where else is that going
No,
to happen?
I was super impressed, man. I really was. At
Yeah.
the youth, at the crowd, they showed up. Again, like one big thing that I think boxing has to deal with is no one shows up for the undercard. I've been to some boxing fights at T-Mobile. I swear there was no more than 25 people at T-Mobile.
Hmm.
Like, you know what that looks like? That looks like no one. That
Yeah,
looks
of
like
course.
people are fighting in an empty arena. That's absurd. That would never happen in MMA, and I'm not even talking about the UFC, Bellator, etc. So they need to figure that out. These guys figured it out. And how do you ultimately combat that? You got to get people emotionally invested in the whole card. You got to build characters. The guy who owns that promotion, along with KSI, his name is Mams Taylor. And he's a huge pro wrestling fan of yesteryear, and so he recognizes that you need to create characters, and that's not everyone's cup of tea. I get it. Some people think it's a sham and all this stuff, but look, the proof is in the pudding. You get people emotionally invested. They show up early for your fight. They don't just show up for the main event.
Good for them for being able to pull it off, I guess. But yeah, I'm ready for my
1.3
ginger.
million pay-per-view buys. That's the
Do you
report.
believe those numbers? Can I ask you? Like they always put those numbers out there, and everyone I know, I don't know a single person that paid for it. I mean, I paid for it obviously because I work for a telecom, and we
Nice.
all pay for all of the live products and live events, and so I would never even think of endorsing an illegal streaming
No.
site. But if I were to consider it or poll the people, I don't know a single person that paid money for the Logan Paul fight. I just know people that
Shame on
stole.
them. Shame on them taking money off my off
Yes.
or food off my table.
Well, you get a
Uh,
cut, you get a percentage.
no, I don't. I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, holy
Uh,
crap, you're way bigger than I even thought. I am
that'd be
actually really thankful
then
for
I
your
would
time.
be. I would accept the oh, you promoted this.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Listen, that's a problem that this world has to deal with. When I say this world, I mean like the crossover world, because
Mhm.
all those people are young, right? All those fans are young, and they're the ones who are like, oh, I'm not gonna pay for anything. Let me go find this stream real quick. Like they're
No,
not
it's a nightmare.
traditional. Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a huge. I
nightmare.
was talking to the DAZN guys about it, and they're like, it is a nightmare, especially
Yeah.
with these cards in particular,
Yeah.
because it's all young kids, teenagers who are just like, let me find the stream. So they
Mhm.
have to figure that out.
That's why I don't believe the numbers. Like again, you're the guy to ask,
Yeah.
but I always feel like they float them out like a pretty big lie that I don't know that it's kind of like, with TV ratings where they're like, this is how many viewers we had. And you're always like, wait, how do you know exactly? And it's like an estimate. And same with like our radio ratings. It's based off of percentages of what they have. And you're like, I don't know, this seems a little flimsy. And I feel like it's probably the same with these pay-per-view buys where I go, there's just no way that millions of people bought these. I think that it's going to be like live music where you're going to have to accept that that's where you're making, and that Spotify and the streaming is just not where you're going to make a ton of it. That everybody's just going to have to do these live events and you're going to have to make your money off the gate. Cause it's just, it's going to get more and more this way for events like that. Last thing before you go, cause you have been generous and you've got to go do your next thing. You got to go do the
No.
scraps. The scraps are up next. Congrats
Yeah.
to the scraps. I know you did it with Bill Simmons because you just said it, but I got to do a Bills check-in with you because it's been a weird season for you guys. Like the opening game of the season, Josh Allen has 1 million turnovers and you lose to the lowly Jets. And then you come out and you spank the Dolphins when everyone's trying to buy the hype train of Miami. And then London and you lay an egg, but it's, hey, don't worry, it's the jet lag thing back, and you face Tyrod Taylor in the revenge game. And let's be honest, you stole that. You stole that win. That was clearly a hold in the end zone on Darren Waller. I said it was good for everyone because Giants fans don't want that win anyways. They want it to lose, so they can kind of shut up about it. But just very up and down for this team where I felt like, man, do they have the best defense in football? Is Josh Allen hitting his prime? Is him and Stephon Diggs the best combination in football? Wow, they've unlocked Gabe Davis to what the hell? Why is this not a little bit more consistent for the team that's supposed to be consistent? Like, how you feeling? You can already see it on your
Not great. Yeah. Not great. Not great. The Jets game was very depressing. To go in there, Rodgers goes down, that whole place is deflated. Zach Wilson and we couldn't do anything. That to me was gutting. And then you bounce back, great. You look good against Miami. That was a big statement win. I saw the London thing coming a mile away. I hate that thing. Could you imagine if Man United or Arsenal or Tottenham had to come to America in the middle of their regular season? Those fans would riot. Why do we have to go to London in the middle of the season? Why do we have to go in there? It's ridiculous. Yeah. I hate that. I hate the fact
Bills too. They always have to go play on the horrible turf. Like they had to come up to Toronto. I covered that game for your former employer. That's the only time I ever got a check from ESPN with all the Disney stuff all over because I'd worked as a stringer.
Oh, nice.
I went to that Seahawks game and I remember going into the dressing room after and asking guys questions and like they're all showing me the burns that they had to endure playing.
It's ridiculous.
And then they got to do the same
season.
Thing.
And you got to go over there. You got to play a team who, by the way, was there for a week. Yeah. You don't get a bye before or after. You don't get a time to properly prepare or recuperate.
You can choose. If you do that London game, you can choose to have your bye week the week after. I think that the Bills decided against it. That's how it works. That's my, I think, off the top understanding of how the London game works. Yeah.
I hate it anyway. Yeah. Again, imagine a Premier League team coming to America. That would never happen.
No.
Preseason, great. Do it. Fine. Sure. Regular season, no thanks. Losing Matt Milano, horrible. Losing Tre'Davious White the previous week, horrible.
Yeah.
The Jags, I don't know why, but they always give us trouble. I don't know why. They're so annoying. But then that Giants game at home, Sunday night, can't score for the first 3 quarters. Very, very frustrating. More injuries as well. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I have a lot of confidence in Josh Allen. I'm still not sold on Ken Dorsey. I know they were playing against Brian Daboll, and Brian Daboll knows Josh very well, and he knows the team very well, and I don't think that could just be discarded. Like, that was a big thing. He helped build that team. Mm-hmm. What about that handshake at the end there between him and McDermott? They clearly don't like each other, which is a bit of a bummer. But
everybody likes Daboll, by the way, I should say.
I love him too. There's a part of me that kind of wishes he stayed and McDermott left. Yeah, I love that guy. He was great. Yeah.
I just thought it was a bad look for McDermott because the book on Daboll is that he's one of he's like, you know that he started his career. He's one of the guys that like started as the janitor and did every job on the way up. So he knows how everybody's job works around football and has connected just like, the training staff to the top of the top. And he is just across the board loved. And so I thought, man, if McDermott's beefing with you, then it's one of those things where just on reputation, you give the edge to the
but
guy
who knows how he handled it? Who knows? Like, it's a tough thing. He's a Western New York guy, so it's a bummer. He would have been great. as head coach. And look, what McDermott has done with the team has been incredible, but this feels like a do or die
Mm-hmm.
season for him. He takes over the defensive duties. They've got to get over the hump. There's no time for excuses anymore. I believe in Josh. I think they have the weapons. Getting Von Miller back will be nice. But the thing that's so frustrating is like it's right there. There's no beast of the AFC. Like I feel like it's right there for the taking. I'm not afraid of the Chiefs. I'm
No
not
shame.
afraid of the Dolphins. I'm not afraid of the Bengals. I'm not afraid of the Ravens. It's right there. And I feel like we have just as good, if not better, of a roster than those guys. But it's like a very Jekyll and Hyde season. The whole season has been a little bit weird. But
Mm-hmm.
like that game, that one on Sunday night was just abysmal,
Can I tell you
absolutely
something?
abysmal. Yeah,
I really believe this. Like this is
you
my
think they're gonna win?
no. I'm not
Oh,
like it's weird because if I'm still dating, right? So I go on dates and women bring up horoscopes all the time. Like it's a
okay,
really big thing in the dating world amongst young women. And
love
and
it.
I try so hard not to roll my eyes about it. And I go, please don't tell me about, please don't ask me what my birthday and time
Yeah,
was because
I love it.
it's gonna
Come on.
hurt me. But then here I am believing in the mystic with sports, and I kind of feel like the only way that your team can win is if you think they're bums franchise. Like there has to be that moment where the fan base comes back down to earth. And I never thought Bills could win last too high, and they were too
Yeah,
excited about the team and they believed in the team and you thought you were a team of destiny and all this stuff. And I went, this is what bad happens. It was like Browns fans were right there before you the year after Baker took them in the one playoff game and they went, oh my God, we're the Browns. We're going to do something. I kind of feel like the Bills karmaically are now in this spot where a little humbled, but you just said it. The AFC's wide open. Patrick Mahomes is throwing a you and me out there. Like we
I
might
know.
get a shot. We might get a shot with the Chiefs this year, Helwani. They got nobody. The Dolphins, you already humbled, and I think that you're more talented than. The defense is good. AJ Epinesa is a freaking star. That guy's a
Yes.
stud, stud, stud. I like
Milano
him. I
though.
think they'll do,
Milano
you know what I
hurts.
think might happen?
What?
I think you guys might get Saquon. I like that. I like you to go out and get
You think
Saquon.
Dayball is gonna let Saquon go to
Yeah, I
the
do. I
Bills?
think that it's out of his control, and I think it's been the whole thing. His Cooks looked all right, and you look
He's not bad. I don't mind Cook.
not bad. I'm
Better than
just
Singletary.
get the sexy running back that adds the other weapon, the pass catcher, the
Oh, it'd be
somebody
great.
like if they could get him the big bowling ball downhill, he's disgusting. Go get Saquon. Go have a trade deadline where you throw a bunch of picks out the door and you bring in a couple of weapons and you bring against a player,
This is the
then,
time.
and then watch the Buffalo Bills do it, baby. I'm telling you right now, feel them at their best is better than any team in the AFC. The problem is the inconsistency stuff and the shoot your own, shoot yourself in the foot stuff that the team like that throw that Allen had to win that game the other day against the Giants. I went, this is why you can believe in these guys.
Yes.
Is one of the only guys in football that can do that. They have that elevator, and he's going to make one of those plays in a big game one of these days. It's going to happen. I believe. Anyway, I don't want
Wow.
to gas you up because I don't want you to start to believe. Because if you start to believe, then
No,
I'll
this is
zag.
better. I like this. I like you
Yeah,
trying to convince me to feel better about myself
yeah,
and my team, as
yeah.
opposed to us puffing our chest out and saying like, we're the Kings. This
100%.
fits Western New York and the Bills way
Yes.
better. Us being the underdog, sneaking up on people. It's fine. I would love the Saquon deal, even though I like Cook a lot.
Yeah.
I
Get more.
just a little consistency. A little consistency would go. Man, Simmons thinks they're not making the playoffs. That's
Yeah.
crazy to me.
He's a
What is he?
it's
He's a
bad
hater.
thing.
We're
Yeah,
gonna spank those Patriots. That's gonna be some good medicine for us. That'll be
it's
nice.
good. That's it. We got to run. You got your next thing. Enjoy your very, very busy day. Thanks as always for being a great friend and coming on and doing this with me, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Ariel Helwani.